So yeah, just a little reminder. So we are from the Digital Culture Network. My name's Catherine and I look after the e-commerce area. Obviously Jacqueline, who's hosting us today, looks after email marketing. And we're actually a wonderful resource for the arts sector. We've got experts who cover all different areas of digital expertise here and available to support you. We produce resources which are available online, webinars such as this one today, and you're also very, very welcome to book one-to-one sessions with us, and we can directly answer questions and challenges that your organisation is facing. And there will be more information about how to do that later on in the webinar. So without further ado, I think we will move on to Jacqueline's webinar for the day.
So, hello everybody. Thanks, Cass, for the introduction, and welcome to everybody who's joined us. Today's session is about the introduction to email marketing automations, and our agenda is made up of 3 sections. So we're going to look at the benefits of email marketer automations, how some tactics and messaging strategies in creating automations, and then in the 3rd section some best practice and top tips. So I hope it's going to be a very practical session. So let's get started. Why are we talking about email? Well, because 99% of people, of email users, check their inbox daily, and 58% check their inbox first thing in the morning. So we're still talking about email, even though it's been around quite a long time. My colleagues will be fed up of me telling them this, but I love email marketing because it combines the 4 magical T's, which are that it's targeted, it's timed, it's tracked, and you can test it. So it's great. It's infinitely flexible, and this is why we're still talking about email. It offers lots of opportunities, and automations specifically help you to work smarter, not harder. If we're talking about automations, if you haven't come across them before, well, you will have done in your personal life probably. Anytime you make an online purchase, a confirmation, a registration confirmation, a satisfaction survey, there's reviews, can you review this product that you bought, a prompt to buy something else from the same company or organization, and all delivered to your inbox. They're being driven by email marketing automations. And even when you don't do anything, there's still probably, and a reminder pops up. Well, that's your inaction is triggering that automation. So why email? Let's look at there's some great stats for email marketing. So for every £1 spent, the return on investment is £42 in revenue generated. It makes sense because your email list is made up of people that have asked to hear from you. They've got in touch with you. They want to hear from you. I think email marketing, your customer data, how else are you going to communicate with your core fans, audience, or customers? Emails are an incredibly powerful tool. And when you put that together with the mobile phone, which feels incredibly personal, you've got the potential to tap into a really effective way of communicating. So email's 40 times more effective at acquiring customers than Facebook and Twitter. And we've also got that it's over 3 times the revenue is driven by automated emails compared to your other email sends. So that's why we're talking about automations. So we talked a little bit about some of the benefits. So the actual definition of an automation is that it's a trigger. So it's the process of automatically sending an email marketing, a marketing email or sales email to your contact database. It's based on actions. We mentioned triggers. They're called triggers, or even inactions. I also mentioned the rules are preset. So you about which emails get sent. You set it up. It's automated in when the emails are sent and what personalized information is included. It saves you time. It anticipates the needs of your customers, and you start building relationships. You can start building relationships with automations, nurturing right from the start of that individual's contact with you. There's talking about the start of a relationship. I'm going to focus on the welcome email, because that one seems particularly, evidence shows it's the most powerful automation, but also it's a great opportunity to engage and nurture your subscribers. And, you know, it's a cliche, but first impressions do count. So it's good to get it right from the start. We've got some great stats for the welcome automation. The evidence shows that, you know, it's got a 90%, a welcome email's got a 90% open rate. So this is an email that's sent after somebody's made contact with you, traditionally signed up to your email list, and then you've said, it's great to hear from you. And those emails that are sent subsequently in that sort of honeymoon period have a 90% open rate. People who are making contact with you in that way, signing up, that 75% of them expect a welcome email. So you're sort of disappointing them if you don't send it. And it's also that engagement. So when you send the welcome email, it can dictate how long the lifetime of your customer relation, how long the customer spends their customer lifetime with you, because those who receive a welcome email have a 33% higher engagement long-term than those who don't. So lots of reasons to be focusing on and giving the automation its due time to set it up. So I'm going to, a quick question to you all. How long before a mobile user deletes a badly formatted email? If you think it's above 5 seconds, could you do the thumbs up? And if you think it's below 5 seconds, could you react with the horrified face, the open mouth face? And let's just see. Oh, you're all too well informed. Yeah, no, it is. In fact, it's 3 seconds. So you've got 3 seconds. If it's a badly formatted email, which is another reason why we want to be ironing out those any badly formatted emails in our customer journeys. Okay, great. So I'm going to just run through some messaging strategies and examples that you can employ and can consider, and hopefully there'll be inspiration to you in your automations. So there's 5. We can categorize the sort of tactics in 5 key messaging strategies: promotion, education, profiling, expansion, and evangelism. And I'll just go through each one with some examples so you can actually see what they look like. So promotion's pretty easy. That's the incentive, you know, sign up to your newsletter, get a discount, 10% off, act now, make your purchase, you get a special discount. So those are some subject lines to get people opening your email, your welcome email. And then here's a nice example from the Migration Museum. So they've already started right at the start of the customer journey. If you sign up to our newsletter, you'll get 10% off. And then their subsequent welcome email and reminder email is, oh, you know, if you haven't yet claimed your 10% off, you know, put in your next order, because, you know, you're entitled to it. It gives them a reason to get in touch with you. It's quite a nice example. Another tactic is the education. So this is about getting them to getting people to know your brand and you as an organization. It's asking you to, it's educating, I mean, in the broadest term. It's a chance to tell your organization's story or history, you know, what you do, your values. People like to feel good about the organizations that they connect with and buy from, and I think the arts can really take advantage of that, because we do have a feel-good factor. This is really nice, these subject lines, it's a sort of lure, getting people to find out more, 3 things you might not know about us, join our community, you know, what will you discover? Some great power words there. And my visual example for this one is the Tate Modern, because they've got a really nice, it's great to meet you part of the email, and there's a call to action there to discover more, but they've also got a bit more about the actual collection and something to do straight away. You can explore the collection online, so you can, you know, they've got different ways for you to connect with their collection. From the this one is for, you know, from the comfort of your own home, which is great, and you can connect with them right now, so that's nice. Profiling. Now this strategy is about using the email as a chance to gather information about your subscriber or audience. It means you can offer them more relevant information going forwards, so that and who doesn't like to be asked about your thoughts or your preferences or your interests? You know, it's a classic enticement to actually submit some information, and then there's the idea that behind that it's a service, because they will actually send you information that you're actually interested, that is relevant to you. So the example of that was this one from Greenpeace that I received, where they're actually asking which issue is most important to me as somebody who supports Greenpeace, it means, as an organization, Greenpeace don't have to second guess what my motivation is or what I'm interested in. They can also use it for potentially a fundraising ask, or, you know, soliciting more support in any way on particular issues. They can personalize future messaging. The key to all email marketing is, you know, sending the right information to the right person at the right time, and that's why automations are so powerful. I've got an example of the expansion strategy. Now, this is where it's connecting getting your email to connect subscribers or audience with additional channels that you offer. So connect with us on social, download a mobile app, look at visit our online shop, with combining the discount incentive promotion strategy. So the strategies do overlap sometimes. We've got this one from the National Gallery, where they're getting people to the expansion strategy, where they're getting people to browse their shop online, and in the same email they've also talked about their collection. I like this one because it also it talks about the feel-good factor that I mentioned. When you shop with us, your purchase helps to ensure that future generations can enjoy the National Gallery as we do today. So yeah, you can shop in with on the moral high ground, knowing that you've got the moral high ground as well. And finally, evangelism. So these are some subject lines that I gathered together. But basically, evangelism is when a customer really loves what you offer so much that they just have to tell everybody they know about it, their friends, their networks, and so on. It's the same. Another term for it is word of mouth, where just people talk about your organization and your brand and pass it on to people that they know. It's a fantastic thing if you can harness it. And it's as yet I haven't received any. This tactic hasn't been used in any welcome automations that I've received. But so I had my example is from 38 Degrees, who are all about evangelism marketing, spreading the word, getting the individual to take action, but then also to get their friends and wider networks to also give their opinion on a particular political issue. In this example, they're asking if you can share the campaign on Facebook or Twitter, and there's also email, forwarding it on email. So they're really deliberately harnessing that word of mouth, that evangelism strategy, and that's part of their whole ethos. So, what does an automation actually look like? You've got some messaging strategies in your toolkit. What could you do with a welcome automation for your organization? So you may already be using an automation, and that might be a lot of automations that I've come across are just one email. And I was just interested in looking at, okay, well, what if you did a series of emails, and what might that look like? There's no right or wrong, but it does allow you, the series allows you for a more complex, to build a deeper relationship, and also for more complex messaging. So you can use different strategies at each stage. So first of all, obviously the trigger, they've subscribed to your list, they've signed up, they've asked to receive information from you. They've somehow interacted with you, and you've got their data and permission to contact them. So you could just have this one email that you send out with a welcome touch, one email, positioning yourself with a very clear call to action, but they would be expecting that immediately. But equally, once you've set that up, then you could think about, well, what might be the next stage? Well, you could wait a day and then send them another email and a third email in the series, and then see, and of course, because of the magical 4 T's, the tracked element particularly, you can see what your success rate with this is. So if it doesn't work, if you're finding that people aren't opening it or reacting to your call to action in one of the particular emails, you can suppress it. So it's a really quite powerful thing. So an example of this is the welcome touch. With the National Gallery. Now, admittedly, the National Gallery sent me this content all in one email, but I wondered if it would be even more powerful if it was separated into 3 emails. So so the first email is welcome to the gallery, and welcome to the gallery and discover more. That's positioning the National Gallery, introducing subscribers to what's on offer. It's got a very clear call to action with the button, so you know what you're expecting. It's using the education, it's introducing, and it's what you'd expect from a first email. But the second one is a little bit more in depth, and it's doing a bit of education, a bit of profiling, because of course, if people do react to this email, browsing the events calendar, you know that they're perhaps in the market for events, or going behind the scenes. Again, they're telling you something about their preferences. So you can, even when you're not directly asking them, you can glean information for their profile, for segmentation, from any action that they take, any clicks that they take as a result of that email. And this is again a chance to talk about your story more in depth. It could be an opportunity to gather more information. You engage and you look at what they're actually reacting to. Kath, can I just check we haven't got a problem? Some participants have raised their hands, and I just want to check there's no issue with that.
Yeah, I've been inviting people to add their questions into the Q&A directly, so we can pick them up at the end. So yes, and just to clarify for everybody, there will be a video of the recording sent out after the webinar's finished. So I know there's been some chat in the chat box about that. So yes, it's all in hand.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to check, didn't want to plow on.
No problem. And yeah, do everybody contribute on the Q&A. So yeah, we're really keen to have lots of engagement there.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Kath.
No problem.
Okay, so on the welcome touch 3, so that third email, there was a wait of five days. You know, we're talking now, you can see shop online, we're talking about expansion, getting your your individual to connect with you in different ways. So what I would traditionally call cross-selling or upselling, you'd get them to browse the shop online. And finally, of course, members. So membership scheme. So that's nurturing. But doing that in 3 separate stages. Once you've introduced yourself, once you've got to know your subscriber a little, once you've parceling it out in that way in a series of 3 emails is perhaps a nicer way than trying to give them everything all at once, which might actually lead to a kind of lower response rates. And lower click-through rates. Right. So I've got some 5 rules of welcome emails that I thought might be useful. We talked about the first email going immediately on sign up or on contact, because people are expecting that, and you're just fulfilling an expectation that they would hear from you. I think an example might be you say hello, and if you didn't send a welcome email, so they've made that contact, but then you didn't follow it up with, a short introduction to yourself. To your organization, that would feel very odd. So people are expecting you to make contact with them subsequently. You could consider using more than 1 email in your automation once you've got your welcome automation established. If you were going to do that, that would be sensible to sort of span that over a 2-week period, and testing and evaluating it at each stage to see what's working, what isn't, is obviously a key. Is going to tell you is a key to success. And incentivizing wherever possible, and finally, of course, using clear calls to action, because don't make the email work too hard. If you can, make it really clear what you're expecting that person to do next. I also think the value of magpieing. So see what other organizations are doing, sign up to their emails and find out what the process feels like to you and what would be. And then you just, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's lots of best practice out there. I just wanted to show you, because I've been talking about that sort of trigger and then what happens next. Basically, it's a flow chart. And this one reads this. It's quite difficult to get any because didn't want the text to be too small, but basically you can see there's been a trigger, somebody's made contact, and then they've sent a welcome email. This is from Digital. There's been a wait 5 days. There's been an action, the decision element. That's that box, the purple with the purple header, and then they've split it. So if there's been an action and somebody's actually clicked through and take an action and a yes, then they'll get one kind of message. And if there's been a no, they'll get a different kind of message. So when your automations can get very complicated, they don't have to be, but you do have this sort of flexibility with them that enables you to really personalize your messaging as you go through. There's some very common triggers. Although we've been talking about the sign up, because that's a key opportune moment for you to make connection with your audience, there are other key times, and very common triggers are, the abandoned cart or basket, and then that triggers an email that says, oh, you've left something in your basket. You may be familiar with that one. From your own activity, online activity, or you may be using it. There's the order confirmation, obviously, when you book tickets or registered for an event, or any kind of action that you've taken, then they'll confirm that, yes, that's happened. There's automation. I've seen automations for, do you want to still keep in touch? So you could set, if there's been inactivity on a file, you can set up an automation that says, do you still want to keep in touch with us? And that makes sure you're keeping your contact lists really tight and that people are engaged with you. And of course, there's the classic product review emails that are sent, automations that are sent when you've bought something, and then they wait a bit and then they ask you to review the product. In this final section, we're just going to look at best practice and top tips. So the reason we're looking in detail at the emails themselves is because this particular stat, which always feels quite shocking, is that 80% of customers consider their experience with an organization to be as important as its product, which is quite telling. So I think what I take away from this is that every single contact that you have with your customer, every touch point, every moment, you need to be thinking about, how does that feel for the customer? What does that feel like? Is it consistent with who you are as an organization and the fact that you're reaching out to people who are engaged with you? So what does this tell us about the organization? So you can see this is an automation, but it's not very human. And yes, of course, it's just a ticket confirmation, and there is some personalization, but it feels possibly like a bit of a wasted opportunity to make contact, to reinforce your brand values, to reinforce and to anticipate what I might want to do next now that I've booked my tickets. It's very functional. Excuse me. So there's some best practice guidelines that are very similar to email marketing, whether it's an automation or not an automation. And you'll probably be very familiar with these. So, test everything. Never assume that anything's working as it should until you've seen it yourself. Check across devices. So we know 47% of people are accessing their emails on mobile. Just make sure that it's working across, laptop, tablet, and mobile. Make every contact count. So that was that bit about touch points. Don't miss any opportunities that you can to really connect with people, and of course evaluate, because so those are the core principles of any email marketing, to be honest. I was just going to ask another question. Let's have a look, just to check you're still with me. Does the term mystery shopper mean anything to you? Could we have horrified face if no? I said no, although there's no horror in it. And also thumbs up if you're using mystery shopper. Oh, that's great that some people, yeah, okay. So mystery shopper, you may be doing it. It's just it's a shorthand term. That's great that some people are using it. It's a shorthand term for a review, basically, and it's just saying, making sure that you, and of course, when you press for time, it's always difficult, but making sure that you're actually going through whatever process, whatever action that you're asking people to take from your email. Just make sure that if it, book a ticket, make sure you have actually gone through that process of booking a ticket, that there's nothing that's not working for, that doesn't make it a smooth process, as smooth as possible, and then you're less likely to lose anybody. So with automations, there's some specific things where things can, automations can trip you up a little bit. Make it easy, know your goals, know what you want to achieve with your automation, and make sure that your call to action is really clear. That will drive better results for you. As we said, don't make one email work too hard. If you know your goals, it's easier to craft a really good message and it to be effective. We talked about being human, the text message versus a more friendly approach, perhaps. It shouldn't read like a machine has written to you. That has crafted the email. It'll have better impact if it actually sounds like somebody who cares has actually put the email together. We talked about don't ask too much. Make sure you plan to lead your recipients down a logical path that's relevant. Yes, the classic, beware of the setup and forget. Automations are sometimes known as that because they work in the background. So once you've done all that work, you've set it up, and of course you just assume that it's working perfectly because you've got other things, other demands on your time. That's where the mystery shopper can come in. If you put a date in your diary, once once a month, you check that all those things, all those automations are working correctly, and that there's nothing that you need to update. Depending on how many automations you have, you may want to do it more often. So I'm just ending with some final examples that I really liked. So I like this one. Thank you for signing up to our monthly emails. Feels very human. And they're telling me the benefits of the sign up. So the monthly emails are packed with news and updates about our exhibitions, events, and ways you can get involved. And there's also that option to unsubscribe if I really want to, but it feels very on brand. I liked it. This one was anticipating needs. So they'd really thought about what else do I want to do? So it's a ticket confirmation, the ticket functional information is there, but what next do I want to do? I might want to get some food and drink around the event. There's keeping you safe, which is the COVID information. And then there's more information. So sort of creating about the event. So making sort of anticipation, creating a buzz about the event that I've just booked. This is our very own Digital Culture Awards email. So we're starting off with asking you for feedback, but then we go on to if you haven't had a chance to meet the winners of the awards, and you can also watch the recording. So we've got some other options with background information. And then, of course, we never miss a chance to think about the next step, which is, book in a one-to-one. In this particular case, you may find for your automations, I've had a look, a lot of you using MailChimp, .digital, Constant Contact comes up, Charity Digital, whatever email platform that you're using, the automations might be slightly different, but feel free to get in touch so that, you can work through it. That's part of the support that we offer. And the final one, this one I liked because it turned my relationship with my local library on its head, sort of thing, or libraries in general, because previously the email that you'd get, that I remember, not particularly from Libraries West, let me say, is that you'd get an email reminder once your book was overdue, and then the relationship that you had was you'd shamefacedly go into the library and pay your fine, whatever it was, because your book was late, you were late in returning it. They've turned it, it's a very simple thing. They just turned that relationship. They've thought about, they've anticipated the needs. You might like a reminder, your book is due shortly to be returned. Please do pop in. I think that's great. They've really thought about that thing about anticipating needs. They've really thought about it. Excuse me. And so finally, we looked at today the benefits of email marketing automations, how to create some automation for tactics and messaging, some strategies, some best practice and top tips, and really taking advantage. It is an introduction. So if you haven't already set up a welcome automation, it's a good one to start with. We've got some takeaways for you today. There is, we talked about evaluation. So Kath, I think, is going to put the email tracker link in the chat. And, it's in an article of a health check for email marketing. It's about halfway down on that article. There's set a date in your calendar now. If you're not reviewing your email marketing processes, including automations, obviously starting with automations, then set a date in your calendar for a regular recurring appointment. That would be my recommendation. And of course, please do book in a one-to-one session with us. Okay. So I think that's it for today. And we'll go on to our Q&A session, which I think Kath has been collating some questions.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Jacqueline. A kind of whirlwind tour of all things email marketing automation. So we've got a really great selection of questions have come in. covering all different parts of that journey of automations. So we're going to jump into some of those. So first of all, we've got a question. You started at the early part of your webinar talking about your different strategies around promotion, education, profiling, expansion and evangelism. And somebody is asking, how do you decide which of these strategies is right for your organization?
So I think it's about working out what you need people to do, in priority, and then testing that and seeing. I quite like the National Gallery example is quite good, because it kind of draws you into the relationship in a very natural way. So it starts by, introducing you generally. That's that educating thing. I do think the promotion thing is not available to everybody, but I think the educating, profiling, expansion and evangelism are in that particular order. I think that's almost in an order of priority of what you can expect people to move down in a sort of very natural, organic customer journey. And the other thing, of course, is that reliance on evaluation. So making sure if you put something in, you can track it, you can see if people are actually clicking on that button to find out more. If they're clicking on that button to find out about membership, you can actually test it. So you can really kind of obviously only change one thing at any given time, but that's one of the strengths of email.
Fantastic. And presumably for many organizations, they might have a mix of each of those strategies, within their automations as well. So it's about getting a nice blend of those strategies.
Yes.
And so staying with the idea of the welcome emails, and we've got a question here from somebody who's saying, looking at the kind of welcome touch emails that you were looking at, that quite a lot of them only seem to include 2 points of information. And they're asking, is there an optimum amount of information to be included in the welcome emails? What's too much? What's too little, I suppose?
So, I mean, in the National Gallery example, they had 6 different options. In fact, I split them out because I thought it would be interesting to test that and see if they work better as 3 separate emails. But they had all put one in. But of course, the problem then is that it's quite a lot. I mean, you're giving people lots of choice, but then you might find that your response rate, it goes down. It's always better to kind of work out what the priority is for you, and actually lead with that, I think. And I personally, in the welcome email, you don't want to overwhelm people. It's a nicer, this nurturing is what you have to have in mind, I think, is that idea of you're building up. You don't want, it's a bit like any relationship. You don't want people telling you their life history the minute you've met them. So you've got to, if you think of it in that kind of human way, this is that what you're doing. You're kind of giving them information in a staged way, in a staggered way that helps them digest it more easily. So I would probably limit it to about 3 bullet, buttons per email, or maybe even 2. It just felt, I think it's just, but of course the tracking will tell you what's working. So, go with your gut.
Absolutely. So we've got a question here about which platforms support these automations, in particular, which of these automations can be set up via MailChimp. And I wondered if you just wanted to recap us on, of the different common ESPs out there, what people can expect to find in terms of automations.
So basically, it does depend on, I think, so sometimes your pricing level, so which kind of contract you've got with the email service provider can depend on how many automations you have access to, or the level of complexity, I think. I noticed that sort of on average, we have about 50% of our people who attend who are on MailChimp, but whether that's representative of overall arts sector, I don't know, but MailChimp does come up quite often, and having looked at them, they do offer automations for the free version. It's just, sorry, not for the free version, for the next step up, but they what they do is they have some templates, so you're able to access the template as well and to have a look at that. So even if you don't use that yourself, you can actually look at examples in there. And I think Digital will also have templates. It's quite a common automation, because it generates good results. It's what people, there's a demand, and therefore the email service providers are pretty much, they're quite good at providing the sort of basic things to get you going. But if you want me to look at your specific email service provider, I think then, and go through it with you, then I think the best bet is to get in touch.
Absolutely. So there is that link for the one-to-one booking is in the webinar chat. So people do feel free to use that. So we've got a question getting into a little bit more detail, but I can imagine this is a challenge which many organisations might face. And this is somebody who's obviously been looking into running welcome emails, and says that their ESP doesn't allow them to send the first welcome email immediately, and I think it's to do with how the data comes across, and it means that the first welcome email will always go out the following day as opposed to when that person immediately signed up. Have you got any suggestions in light of that as to, are there things to, adapt or respond to that in the content, just managing that expectation if it's not quite as immediate as perhaps the organization might have liked?
I think, that's I don't feel that you still got the momentum of that honeymoon period that we talked about. So I don't feel that you're massively disadvantaged by the fact that, okay, it's the next day. It's just you're fulfilling that expectation, which already is a positive. And and then the thing will be to test to see what response rates your call to action on that email gets, and which call to action is the most popular if you've got a choice. So I think tracking it, but there's nothing you can do if that's how it works. I don't think, when I say immediately, I think don't wait 3 days. I think it's more like that sort of thing, and then send a welcome email.
Fantastic. So within 24 hours is still feeling like
it's still good. Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. And we've got a really good follow-on question from the same organisation, and that is, would you recommend suppressing people who are part of the welcome journey from also receiving the regular newsletter? How would you manage that potential overlap of communications?
Because this was an introduction to automation, I didn't suggest that, because it might feel a step too far. And that is, you're absolutely right to highlight it if you're already doing a welcome automation, and because ideally, you don't really want it looks less coordinated if you've got your newsletter coming in when you're actually got a managed set of an email series, that's welcoming them. Having said that, people are quite robust, and so if they want to hear from you, they want to hear from you. So I'd be, if you can possibly suppress the newsletter that you send out on a monthly basis or whatever, on a regular basis, that's great. And sort of creating the exclusion zone for your welcome automation is great, is best practice, but it's not always practicable. So I think it's much more important that you get that information out there, that you in the way that you want, in the way that you're nurturing them, that you're making them feel good about your brand, and using every possible contact, making the most of every contact.
Absolutely, that makes sense. That really does. Okay, so we've got a couple of other questions here which jump around a bit to some interesting areas. We've had somebody who's asked, are you able to provide some examples, or perhaps just talk us through a bit some of your methods for evaluating whether a campaign has worked, and whether these strategies are, you know, doing what we want of an automation strategy. So what are you looking at when you're trying to assess how well these automations are performing?
So I'll be my own so there's the it's as with any emails, the open rates are a little bit now. There's an issue with open rates because of the Apple MPP, which is a privacy policy, which if people subscribe to it, the open rates for those people who've subscribed to that and are on Apple devices, the open rates are over-reported, that you can't see whether they've actually opened an email or not. It reports 100% open rate, whether they've opened it or not. So this has kind of meant that, and as time goes by and more people opt into this MPP potentially, or it becomes wider spread, open rates are kind of, that you've got to kind of just, you know, make allowance for that in your open rates. I think that's why I've been, I hope in the email, in the webinar, I was stressing the importance of clicking through, because ultimately anyway, what you really want people to do is take action, because that is ultimately where you'll generate revenue or get greater engagement. Email is great as a channel, pushing people through. That's what you need them to be doing. So always thinking about the next step. So I must admit, I would put more reliance on click rates wherever possible and use those as an indicator. You know, that would be my you know, I think that'd be the best gauge of whether an automation is working or not.
Fantastic. That's really helpful. Thank you, Jacqueline. And just coming to our last couple of questions here. So we've got somebody who's asking about if we've got the ability to set up these different types of email, is there a way to retroactively, you know, we've talked about profiling, is there a way to retroactively apply this to your existing database? Or would you recommend doing this as part of a re-engagement campaign, you know, inviting people to provide some profile preferences? As this is something which this organisation has been somewhat challenged by. So what do you do with that big existing database, and how can you manage and break that down to, you know, start to employ some of these automations?
So I think, so I would, if you're looking to inform your segmentation, say, so I can see a very obvious example that I've seen where, you know, that's been used to segment, to further segment your data so that you know more about what information they're interested in. You know, that is, data is, unfortunately, it's never 100% complete. It's never, you know, we talk about the 360-degree view of the customer, but is quite difficult to, you know, that's actually generally, I think, quite unrealistic, because it's quite a complex, you know, it's never perfect in that way. So I would, I've seen it where you send an email asking them to submit their preferences, say, and because the offer, the incentive for, you've got to think, why would I, you know, give you more information about what I want? Well, actually, you know, I've seen one example where they say, we know your inboxes are really busy. Could you tell us a little bit about what you'd like to hear about? And then, you know, so they sort of, your interests, so that we can send you relevant information at the right time. And that is quite appealing, because it's true, inboxes are overcrowded, and even automations, you know, there's been a bit of a dip in their response, in their, you know, click-throughs. And so it's important to send that secret, which is no secret, it's an open secret, which is sending people the right information at the right time. You know, the right person. You're, with your profiling, you're making sure that you know what that person actually wants to hear. So that would be a good example of an automation. Automations, although I've focused on the welcome automation because I think it's universally, you know, going to be useful to people, hopefully, because even if you've got one, you can improve it. Actually, there's, you know, the next step, once you've got that in place, is absolutely looking at other automations that you could set up. And Kath, as our e-commerce specialist, you know, can look at is also very familiar with automations for e-commerce. So the abandoned basket that we talked about is probably one that you're particularly familiar with.
Yes, there's a lot of good crossover, and
Yes.
Having email marketing automations which are well set up and well tested can really help support your online revenue and growing, that e-commerce side of things. So both Jacqueline and I are really happy to help and support people who are looking to address that side of things. So a couple more questions. We're coming to the end here now. So we have had one question which is quite detailed about some of the breakdown of the demographics and statistics. So I think we'll come back to you more directly on that one. So we won't cover that one off right here and right now. And our last question is a nice kind of step back and a bit of a bigger picture kind of reflection, asking Jacqueline her thoughts on this. And this is asking, do you think that in this information age, newsletters will continue to be the best way to market to people? And how do they compare, for example, to things like blogs? So I guess back to that bigger picture, how do you feel about the role that email is going to continue to play in people's lives and for their organizations?
I think what I just mentioned about getting the right information to the right person at the right time, that will still always have, I think, a good, a positive impact. And I think it's just part of your tool. So the blog is also can be a useful tool. But the trends in email marketing are hyper personalization and hyper segmentation. And for me, the two are intrinsically linked, because they are that thing. If you know what resonates with people, you can send them a much more personalized email. So that those two trends fit together for me, and they also make sure that email marketing continues to perform. It is the best performing channel, but that is the best way of ensuring that it stays like that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jacqueline. So I think we've got to the end of our questions from the audience. We will just pop onto our last slide and share with you some of our contact information. So thank you, Jacqueline, for a wonderful webinar. If people would like to get in touch, you can book a one-to-one. You can email Jacqueline directly. You can join our mailing list, which will keep you informed about all of our future events and articles. There is also the one-to-one link to book a one-to-one, which I will drop it back in the chat, so it's just there freshly for you. And thank you ever so much for spending your an hour with us this afternoon to learn about all things email marketing automation. So thank you, everybody.